Right, starting putting the pieces together on Grandpa. I'll start with the shoes. On one of the shoes, it had like a circular mounting tab mounted onto the top of the shoe, and on the other one, it had like an iron triangular circular shape on the other one. I ran my glue on the inside of the mounting hole, just underneath the bottom of his trousers, and it was actually quite a nice tight fit. So I just put the glue in, pushed them into place, and they actually held themselves in. So I left that overnight to dry on the one night. Then I moved on to the torso and the trousers. Now on the torso, it's got like on the front the mounting tab, it's like a triangular shape, and on the back it's like an oval shape, which actually mounts into the hole on the underneath of the torso. But that was quite a loose fit when I put the glue on. So using my elastic bands, put them from underneath and put them over his shoulders, both sides, to make like a mankini harness. Give me a right good amount of pressure to hold that into place. So the next night, let that overnight to dry. Once that had dry, I took the elastic bands off and then pushed his coattails in. Now the coattails has a square mounting tab on the inside of the coattail, so I just masked it off with the blue tack, sprayed both sides, painted the inside of the coattails black, took the blue tack off, and then mounted it into the square hole on the back of his trousers. And unlike the shoes, it was actually quite a nice tight fit. So I just ran my glue in, pushed it into place in my thumb and my finger like that, and it's dried an absolute treat. And the trouble is it's left a bit of a gap, so I'm going to have to fill that gap in with some putty. Moving on to the arms, I made a bit of a mistake. I actually thought that was a mounting tab into a hole like on his arm there, into his shoulder. So what I did is I wrapped the arm with some household masking tape and re-sprayed that. Masked off the little square hole because the mounting tab's on the glove, and just pushed the glove into place. On the other wrist, same again with the cuff, taped, masked, let that dry, and glued the fist into place, and it's glued an absolute treat. So that's where I'm sitting at the moment on Grandpa. I'm getting there slowly. Right, if you remember from the previous update, when I was starting to put Grandpa together, I had a gap issue between the lower part of his back section and the coattails. So what I've done is I've got my 2-part milliput filled in that gap, and then while it was still wet, I used that water technique where you can rub it down with water to smooth it down so it minimises sanding. I've done a little touch of sanding, but not as much as I would have done if I hadn't done that water technique. So the proof in the pudding will be when I paint over that, but it doesn't look too bad at the moment. Also, I've primed the base. I've took those little bits of blue tack out the mounting peg holes. I have took the masking tape off the mount for the electrical cabinet. I've also took the masking tape off the bottom of the electrical cabinet for where the pegs are. I've primed the electrical cabinet itself. I let that dry, and then I sprayed the white on top of that. Because looking at the actual completed scene on the back of the box, there is actually a few bits of white. You've got the paper readout there. You've got the actual pulse of the pulse generator screen there, so I'm going to leave that in white. And you've got this skull as well. And also these panels here, I think it will be better with white when I paint the orange and the yellows on as well, and possibly some reds. So hence why I've spray painted that white. But that is where I'm sitting at the moment. Right, I've started work on the control panel electrical cabinet using a combination of the actual completed model mock-up on the back of the box and the box art as a guide for the colours. You can see I've painted the various colours on. If you remember, I'd actually sprayed this in the primer, then the white on top of that, because there was a certain section that was going to be white anyway, like this paper readout here. You've actually got the red readout indicator there. I just put some masking tape around that, excuse me, because it was triangular. Just painted on my red, and just once it dried, took the tape off, and it's dried an absolute treat. I've picked out the light bulbs as well. You got Revel Leaf Green, Tamiya Clear Orange, Tamiya Clear Blue, Tamiya Clear Red. Took a couple of coats to get that right. With this readout here, I've got the trainer yellow, the gunmetal, the red, green and the blue. I've got the 251 Humboldt brown for this panel here where the handle goes, and then I've painted the actual handle mounts with the gunmetal. The various bits and bobs here are 251 brown. I've got copper in there. No, is it copper? No, it was metallic antique gold, I think, for that section there. Or was it no, it was the bronze. The bronze. Gone for the bronze for those readouts. I've just got to touch them up a bit with the brown to, you know, make them a bit more neater. And you've got purple, which I mixed the Tamiya Clear Red and Tamiya Clear Blue to make the purple for that one. You've got the leaf green. The actual electrical pulse readout there, again, that was left in the spray white, and just painted the leaf green around it with my tiny detailing brush. Took 2 coats, but it looks quite nice. I'm really quite chuffed with that. Then you've got the trainer yellow for the high voltage power lettering, which I did going to my Herman. That's what I use for the danger letters. And then with these readouts here, the outer parts of it, I've just gone with the anthracite, Revel anthracite. I've got the number 26 brown for this section here, and then the gunmetal for the actual wiring. I've done the gunmetal for the wiring there as well, along with the speaker. And then with this section here with the skull, I left the skull white as it was sprayed. I just got the anthracite, went in very carefully with my detailing brush and picked all that out. And it's dried an absolute treat. I'm really well chuffed with this. And now I'm going to be painting the actual main cabinet coat. And then we'll see how it looks once it's finished. But I'm really well chuffed with this so far. Right, it's finale time on Grandpa Munster. I've done the last bit of painting and detailing, last bit of construction onto the base, and it's all sealed. And I'm really well chuffed with the results. So here's the final reveal. Turning the camera around, there he is in all his glory. Really well chuffed on how he's turned out. Turned out better than I expected, to be honest. Right, so when I left you, I'd just done the detailing on the control panel electrical cabinet. And you know, I'd gone overboard a little bit, but that's no never mind. Because once I painted the main coat on, it tidied it all up. Now going over to Herman, I wanted to match this little bronzy brown coat that I put on the electrical box. But that was 5 years ago. What I did, I watched a YouTube video and I mixed Revel metallic copper with gunmetal to reach that effect. The only trouble is I haven't got no metallic copper. So what I did is I mixed 3 colours. I got the artist paint in the titanium gold with some gunmetal and some number 9 Humboldt brown to redden it up a bit. And that's what I ended up with. So I painted that all around the lettering with my fine detailing brush and all around the little bits, and as you can see, it looks really, really nice. And all those imperfections where I've gone overboard a little bit have all disappeared. Once that dried, because it took about 2 or 3 coats to get it right, I then got my scissor clamps and clamped it to the base before I put this back on, because it was all hollow. Put one clamp there, and let it dry overnight. Once the clamps had took off, I then glued the base on the back, let that dry, and then painted on the back with that mixture, and it looks an absolute treat. Really, really nice. I preferred it with this back, to be honest, because I didn't like the way it was with no back on. I then painted the Tesla coils. I painted those in the metallic bronze artist paint. Took a couple of coats and getting the brush in there with the grooves with a few touch-ups here and there, and those have dried an absolute treat. Once that was done and dry, I then sealed it with a Humboldt satin coat. and it's looking really nice indeed. Once that was finished, I then went on to Grandpa. Now the plans call for you to not glue Grandpa into place, but to pop him in the holes, because what you have to do is you have to mount the arm in and then line the handle up with the channels of the actual on-off switch control panel. So once I manoeuvred the arm into place into the position I wanted, I put the glue in, and then I wrapped an elastic band round his shoulders and let that 24 hours to dry. I took the elastic band off. The only problem is the handle kept wanting to pop out backwards. So I dropped a bit of glue in the channels, got one of my big elastic bands and wrapped it round the cabinet and wrapped it round his shoulders, so it brought the cabinet forward slightly. Let that 24 hours to dry, took the elastic band off, and the handle is now glued into the channels. A real treat. Not too bad at all. Once that was done, I got my glue and got it underneath, because my glue's got one of those fine little applicators, and just ran the glue underneath the shoes and then just pushed them down a bit. Right, once that was done, I then sealed Grandpa. I used the Humbrol matte coat, and then gloss coat round his lapels and on his gloves, because I wanted them to have a nice shine. Right, now, the one thing I didn't explain in previous updates is Grandpa's facial features and skin tone. Basically, I used the same paint I did Herman in. It's 5 years old, but it's still okay. So you got the sea glass mixed in with the greenscape and a bit of Revel Blue 36152 and a touch of white. Because I got my inspiration for the colour from my lifeboat. That's the three colours I mixed for the lifeboat sea base. Because on the actual box art itself, that's too light. Looking at some colour photos of Grandpa, this is pretty much the blue that they used. It actually looks darker. So once I painted that on and let it dry, I then gave it a whitewash, and then picked out some, and then put some black wash around his eyes, round the nose and his smile lines and his chin area. Once that dry, I then got my makeup pencils out. I bought a new white one, £1.50 from Superdrug, and then started to smudge the white on. I also used my pencils. I used a bit of grey and a bit of black to bring out his eyebrows. And I think it looks an absolute treat. Now for his sideburns, I tried to paint the white on and dry brush it, but it wouldn't come out. It was more like a grey. So again, I've used that white makeup pencil and brought out his sideburns, an absolute treat. And then I've just put a bit of the white on there as well, smudged it, and it's turned it grey just for his hairline in the middle of his hair part, and just a little bit in there, nothing too major. And also you can see that I've detailed the lanyard, which was the enamel red, took 2 coats, then the gold, which was the titanium metallic antique gold, and then I just trying to get the bloody camera to focus, and then I just put the little black there, and the little demon thing in the middle is red according to the colour photos, and that's it. The one thing I like about this, when it was on the blue tack, it didn't really look very much, lifelike and a bit bland, but once I glued it onto the top of his neck, it actually brought the head to life. I'm really well chuffed on how that is. Really well chuffed indeed. Last but not least, I've got the 4 bits of construction here. The base, what I did is I basically got my makeup pencils and just rubbed some of the greys and the blonde one as well to bring out the base, and then I just dropped a bit of black wash down the cracks of the slabs themselves. I then got the cobwebs, a couple of coats of white, glued them into place with the gluing glaze, and the book, I used an off-white Humbrol and the number 9 Humbrol to paint the book itself. Just glue and glaze, glue, and they've dried an absolute treat. Well, there's Grandpa all finished. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to pause the video and put Herman next to him. Right, putting the two bases together now. They're not glued or anything. You can see the gap there. They're just, you know, the shape locks together, as it were. Well, it looks like it's locked together. So the slab bases and pushed together. Then you get the little bit of vinyl cord that you get with Herman and Grandpa, and you just I haven't glued them in, just plug them into the sockets. And as you can see, the complete scene is looking absolutely fantastic. Not bad at all, even though they are 5 years apart. And to be honest, it's weird that, you know, 5 years ago that I bought Herman from the model fair, and I picked up Grandpa from the model fair 5 years later. Well, there it is, the complete scene. I'm just, you know, I'm hoping my wife will be really happy with it. Not too bad at all. So, turning the camera around, as usual, I'll put some stills on. Hopefully I haven't bored you too much with my inconsistent rambling. And I'll see you fairly soon with my next build. Thank you very much for watching.